and the stage door code written on my palm. The number smeared by morning, but I could still read it. 1472. It was written in thin black ink across the base of my thumb, where a pulse looks like a secret. I hadn't written it, and my handwriting doesn't lean like that, careful, a little theatrical. The night before had ended with red wine and a fight that wasn't a fight because we were both too polite to award points. We fell asleep in separate hemispheres of the bed, each of us clinging to the border like a country defending a coastline. I washed the number off and it came back as a ghost. Pen does that when it's trying to be narrative. On the counter, Marla had left a note. Matinee at 2. Don't be late. She'd drawn an arrow that curved into a heart and then crossed it out, a tiny betrayal of her own optimism. Marla is an actor with a calendar problem. She swallows rehearsals and spits out time in glittered fragments. I write copy for a museum that will outlast us both. My sentences get lacquered to plaques, and tourists point at them while their audio guides talk over me. We are a two-person experiment in how permanence and performance make a home. I made eggs the way a person makes amends with an egg and brewed coffee strong enough to reset intention. We walked to the tram in a silence that wasn't cold, it was drafty. She wore her navy coat and the scarf I bought in Lisbon, the one that makes strangers ask what color it is so they can buy the color too. She tugged my sleeve at the corner and pressed her mouth to my jaw. I meant what I said, she murmured. And I also meant the opposite. At least you're consistent, I said, and she laughed without heat. The Matinee was a new play about an affair that pretended not to be about an affair. Marla had the second lead, the one who looks like trouble but is really logistics. I sat 3 rows back because that's where eyes meet if they're allowed to. In the scene where her character takes off her shoes and admits to wanting something simple that will ruin her, she looked out past the lights into a rectangle of darkness where I like to believe I live, and smiled like she'd found me. The line that followed was, "Don't look at me like that," but she said it as if the word "do" were a suggestion and the rest a dare. After in the lobby, she said hello to a line of people who said "marvelous," and meant "thank you for letting me watch you." I stood to the side and practiced the art of being a supportive man without becoming furniture. A tall man with gray at his temples cut through the cluster toward her, the way someone moves who knows where he is in the script. He wore a coat with a velvet collar and the kind of smile that collects favors. He kissed her cheek once, then again like a metronome. "Gideon," she said, almost under her breath, and the way she shaped the consonants made me want to move him like a prop. She introduced us with the airy competence of people who have decided to be adults even when it hurts. "Evan, this is Gideon. He helped me find the part and then he helped me not ruin it." "Help is such a broad church," he said, and shook my hand with a grip that conveyed bloodlines and meetings I would never attend. The base of my thumb, where my pulse lives, stung as if the 1472 remembered itself. He noticed the flinch, of course he did, and adjusted his smirk by 2 degrees. "You were excellent," I said to Marla because it was true. "She was," he agreed, taking ownership of my compliment the way a certain kind of man pays your bill and then tells you you owe him. We escaped when she pretended to see someone and I practiced not breaking scripts I didn't write. On the walk home, the city tried to be cinematic, wind lifting paper bags into choreography, neon pretending to be moonlight. Marla wedged her hand into the crook of my arm. "We used to be terrible at this," she said. "Now we're less terrible." "Practice," I said. "Eventually you can do anything if you don't quit." At the corner, a young woman in a denim jacket pressed a flyer into Marla's hand. "New Works Festival," she said, eager. Marla smiled politely and slid it into her coat pocket. When we got home, the flyer fell to the floor and a slip of paper slid out, a rectangle of cardstock with a logo shaped like an empty picture frame. On one side, stage door. On the other, back entrance code, 1472. Souvenir, I asked, casual failing to stand upright. She picked it up, turned it over, and then looked at me in that way she has when the correct answer costs dignity. We used it last week, she said. I had to borrow it for a late rehearsal because the front was being painted. Gideon had it. He wrote it on my hand so I wouldn't call the stage manager and bother her. She looked at my thumb, at the ghostly number. I must have written it on yours after we fell asleep, out of muscle memory. Or out of rehearsal, I said. Are we rehearsing something we aren't ready to stage? She sighed, that low, frustrated sound she makes when the world insists on being literal. I told him I wasn't going to be his contiguous scene change, she said. He invited me to a small room to explain why that was a mistake. I left the door open. I used the code because I wanted to walk out without a flourish. Did you kiss him? She leaned against the counter, code between her fingers like a confession in miniature. He kissed me and I moved my face, which is a kind of kiss if we're writing for people who like loopholes. Then I said, I want my life, and he said, you want applause, and I said, not from a man who claps when he can hear himself. I poured water and the glass sounded like a sick bell when it touched the counter. You could have told me. I'm telling you now, she said, and I wanted to award points for that and also pull the plug on the game. We were careful with the rest of the day. Care can be erotic when you are trying to be good. She curled up on the couch and read the play aloud in a whisper to find the rhythm she needed to keep, and I lay on the rug and listened and pretended to understand the math of emotion on paper. At 6, she touched my hair with her foot. I want us, she said, as if nomming it would tether it. At 11:14, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. The back entrance code changes at midnight. If you need to stop anything, do it now. If you need to start, don't. I stared at the screen until my eyes made it halo. Mara, I typed back because the city is small and certain letters arrive with the same gravity. Same Mara, came the reply. I've watched your posture, and I've seen that man rehearse too many women into monologues they didn't write. What do you want me to do? Choose intimacy over spectacle, she wrote. Spectacle is cheaper and sells out faster, but intimacy gets better reviews. Stand at the door if you must. Better, stand in your kitchen and ask her to say the line you most need to hear. Marla was brushing her teeth with the focused ferocity she gives to all honest tasks. I put my phone down and went to the bathroom doorway like a man arriving at his own scene a beat late. Do you want to see him? I asked. I want to see doors that open only into rooms that have our furniture, she said, foam bright at the corner of her mouth. I want to stop needing to practice being terrible so I can prove I'm not. Okay, I said. Then show me you're terrible so I can love you with a correct map. In bed, we faced each other like synchronized swimmers who'd finally found their surface. She touched my nose with one finger. Gideon loves what he can curate, she said. I want to be kept, not displayed. I slid my hand to the small, deliberate place at her waist and rested it there, asking without speaking. Then let's keep, I said. What followed wasn't an apology and it wasn't a performance. It was two people trying to be precise with muscles that prefer blur. The erotic part lived in the specificity, the way she guided my palm until the pressure said yes, the way my mouth found the hinge of her jaw and she said my name like it had been misfiled and retrieved, the small, serious check-ins here, more, slower, that add up to trust. We laughed once when a sleeve refused to behave and she rescued me with her teeth. We sighed at the same moment when the rhythm that belongs to us arrived and we recognized it. Heat came on like a tide we had invited and believed in. When we finished, we didn't separate. We stayed in the kind of contact that feels like punctuation, the M dash that says, "Wait, don't end it yet." After we lay looking at the ceiling, which was doing a good job of being a ceiling, she whispered, "I wanted him to see me and decide I was worth the risk, but I am tired of auditions." "I like your backlog, not your audition," I said, and she laughed softly into my chest. At 11:59, my phone lit with another text from Mara. "Code changes now. Choose a door." I typed back a photograph of our closed bedroom door with her foot visible at the edge of the bed. "This one," I wrote. She responded with a heart, and I imagined a satisfied nod the city could feel. Morning brought ordinary light, and the sound of our upstairs neighbor practicing scales on a violin that wants different fingers. Marla made coffee the way you make amends with beans and buttered toast, with such focus that I felt a little holy watching. "Rules," she said, as if continuing a conversation we'd paused to breathe. But not as punishment. We wrote them down. 1. No numbers on skin that aren't ours. 2. If a door needs a code, we choose it together or walk away. 3. When boredom arrives, we feed it and send it to bed. It doesn't get to drive. 4. Novelty is a household chore. My weeks I pick the wrong time for the right thing. Your weeks you move the furniture until the light learns us again. At noon, a package arrived with no return address. Inside, a theater pen with the sterling printed in gold and a note in a tidy, unamused hand. "Props returned. Anna." There was a second note, different ink, the M I knew now. "Curators hate when the audience chooses their own ending." We hung the pen on a nail by the door. Not as a trophy, as a reminder that objects have stories and we get to say when they're in our house. 3 nights later, after a show that left people standing because sometimes they remember they have legs, Gideon cornered Marla by the alley and called her Star in a way that felt like a generational error. I saw his coat before I saw his face and decided not to honor my pettiness with proximity. From the end of the alley, I heard her say, "No," with such exquisite articulation that even the dumpsters applauded. She joined me at the corner and tucked her hand into my pocket, palm warm. "A small occupation army." "I wanted to tell him I was choosing you," she said, "but I realized that sentence makes him the audience. I told myself I was choosing you instead. That felt correct." "I want to be chosen by you to my face," I said. "The rest can hear about it in rumors." On the walk home, we passed the poster announcing the theater's winter gala. A banner across the bottom read, "Secret Rooms." Marla tore off the perforated corner with the RSVP number and folded it into a small, clumsy heart. "No more secret rooms," she said, and slid the paper heart into my palm where the ink had once lived. We are not pure. We are exact when we can be and forgiving when we can't. Twice a week, we move the couch 2 inches and say, "Look," and make the room relearn our names. Sometimes at 2 a.m., my hand still remembers how to be a page, and I write something on it by accident. Lemons. Call your mother. Kiss her before the calendar. Sometimes in the morning, she takes my hand and presses her lips to the base of my thumb, where a number once insisted on trying to be a plot, and she says, "This is mine," and I say, "It is." And the day begins like a curtain going up on a show whose ending we plan to improvise together.